the important thing is you want to make sure that when you invest in the project, that project gives you the returns necessary for you to be able to ensure that the risks have been mitigated and the returns actually accrue back to your bank. Now, if you have an environment where there's any doubt as to whether in fact those returns will materialize, then you begin to question whether you should make an investment at all. In fact, it goes further, because the question comes, if you're going into an environment where you do not have that, what I would call conducive environment, and that embodies all the sanctity of contracts and everything, there's a cost associated with that risk. So if you came to me, for example, and you had two projects, one in country A and one in country B, and in country A, I noticed that, well, some of your predecessors that have done a particular project before in your sector, the contract was not honored by a subsequent government, or it was abrogated, it was cancelled, and there was a dispute over it. And you give me another one in a country B in which they have held on, there's been transitions, but they have managed to keep to those same contracts. They've honored the obligations, not just about cancelling it, they've honored the obligations maybe to allow you to have cost-reflective tariff, maybe to allow you to have the tax-free status you are going to enjoy for a period, etc., etc. Then, if I'm making an investment decision to support you, either through lending or equity investment, I'm always going to make sure, for me, it's actually going to be easier to make a decision on country B because of that environment than country A. Even though the returns on country A may be more attractive, but the risk profile are much higher. And therefore, there are costs that comes with that. Either I don't do it at all, or even if I was to do it, I would have to add some margin to the margin of that investment or lending that I'm doing, because I have taken into account the risk associated with country A. I think in a way, I always say that Africa Finance Corporation is Nigeria's gift to Africa, because in fact it was, as you know, it was established through the patronage of the central bank and the Nigerian Central Bank and the government of Nigeria. Today we have over 20 member countries. We are a Pan-African bank in the sense that we can invest from anywhere from Tunis to Cape Town. We started in 2007 with a paid-in capital, thankfully, of 1.1 billion. Today, our balance sheet is over 4.5 billion. We've got an investment footprint in some 30 countries, meaning we've done business in some 30 countries across the globe. We've got, and examples of those are toll roads in South Africa. We've got a bridge in Cote d'Ivoire. We've got little power station that we've been developing in Cote d'Ivoire as well. We've got investments in the Niger Delta, in the oil sector in Nigeria. We've got investments in the power sector in Nigeria. We've got investments in Ghana, in Kenya, in Egypt, in Tunisia, in Zambia. So we've done a lot to prove ourselves. Our focus is very clear. We are an infrastructure bank, so we focus on natural resources, which is oil and gas and mining. We focus on transport, and when I say transport, I mean all the subsectors of transport: ports, airports, roads, rail, logistics, etc. We focus on power. And power, again, all along the value chain, from the time when you bring your gas into the pipeline to actually the generating station, the transmission, the distribution, and all of that. We also do heavy industry, which is like your petrochemical or your fertilizers and stuff, and then telecoms infrastructure. So we are very focused. Being focused in these sectors allows us also to be flexible in the instruments that we can use. So you're not just going to come to us like a private equity fund. We're not a private equity fund that's just looking to make an equity investment. We're solely also not a bank just doing a debt investment. So we can do both. We can do debt, we can do equity, we can do everything in between. We can do convertibles, we can do mezzanine, junior debt, and all of those things. We actually say to ourselves, even though we're focused on our sectors, we're flexible in our products to meet the needs of the client. I have always said, and I continue to say this everywhere I go in my travels, be it public or private, that I think Nigeria continues to be the most attractive power sector destination in Africa. I genuinely believe that. But if that was to, yeah, it has the potential. But for it to materialize, I think that wonderful, because you do have the statues in the books, I think is second to none, quite frankly, when you look at the statues to the work, the way it was privatized and the act itself. However, we must accept that from an operational point of view, it has not worked as well as we all thought it was going to work. And that's where I think we all must sit down, public sector, private sector, and actually come to the table and say, look, we've got a wonderful platform here. We've got a market, a massive market. We've got a people who are crying out for this most important commodity. How can we make it work? And I think it's a collective. I don't think just one solution from my side as a bank, an investment banker, or indeed from an operator, or be it in the disco side, or be it in the Genco side, or be it from government is the answer. It's us genuinely come to the table. There's some critical things I think that are fundamental. I've told you the sanctity of contracts. I would also say that we should have a regulatory regime that, whilst protecting the customer base, it allows also for cost-reflective tariffs. And if we can't do cost-reflective tariffs for everybody, can we find a mechanism that can be supported to government where we can help the weakest of the weak in our society? So they're not, and also we look at the delivery of the service. Now, I cannot just allow you cost-reflective tariff if I know that you're not delivering to the communities what they require, and that is power. So what are the inefficiencies in the system that we can take out? What is it that the investments that we need to make in the system? Can we do that jointly, public sector and private sector? I think that discussion must be had. And it must be one that, though frank, we should do it collaboratively, because it's in the benefit of all of us.